everyone. Today we're going to be talking about credit cards. We're going to talk about several different types of credit cards that are out there, what they're good for, and what are some of the risks associated with them. This slide, you don't have to write this down. This is just going to an overview of the different types of cards we're going to talk about. So we're going to first start by talking about unsecured credit card. These are what we refer to when we just say credit card. They're the regular credit card. Technically, they're an unsecured credit card, but we'll talk about what that means later. Then there's also secured credit cards, and these are always called secured credit cards. So it's a slightly different type of credit card, and we'll talk about how the difference happens. Also store credit cards. So these are cards that have like a store's emblem on them. You can only use them at that store. They work like a regular credit card in all of the ways though. And then prepaid cards, these are gift cards. While these technically aren't credit cards, they look and spin the same, so we'll talk about them briefly here. And then another category called payroll cards. Again, these technically aren't credit cards, but they, again, look and spin, and we'll explain what they are when we get there. All right, so our first one we're going to talk about is the unsecured, the regular credit card. So when we say the word credit card, here's what we're talking about. When you make purchases on a credit card, you are borrowing money from the credit card company. So the credit card company is paying the store that you're buying things from. They're paying them with their money, and then you're going to agree to pay that back over time. Your credit limit is how much that you're allowed to spend on the credit card. So you might sign up for a credit card, and when you do, you'll get a credit limit. It'll be decided by lots of information like how much money you make, what your credit score is, what your credit history's been like. All this stuff comes in, and they'll say, hey, you have a credit limit of $500, which means you can charge $500 on that credit card, up to $500. You can set up your credit card so that at that $500 mark, it will deny any future purchases, or you can set it up to where it'll allow you to go over that credit limit, but no, there's usually like a $20 fee for going over that limit. Credit card companies typically will set you up with a card that will allow you to go over because they love collecting that $20 fee when you pop over that credit limit. Just be sure that you know what's going to happen with your card. Typically, you pay interest on balances not paid off each month. So if you purchase something on your credit card, and at the next billing cycle, when you get your bill, if you pay for that, it's interest free. You only pay interest on things that you carry over, meaning you keep on there for more than one billing cycle. Interest rates are stupid high for credit cards. So even a really good credit card, when you have a great credit score and plenty of income and great credit history, is still in that 10 to 13% range down at the bottom. And they range up to like mid-20s to upper 20s. You might even see some in the 29, 30 range. And those are huge interest rates. They're very expensive ways to borrow money. Your interest rate depends on your credit score, your income level, and the amount of other debt you have. So when you apply for a credit card, they're going to pull your credit report, see all the loans and debt you've had and ever had in the last 7 to 10 years, and be able to make a decision based on that information. So borrow that appear more risky. So if you've had some nicks in the past or your credit score is low, that indicates to a lender that you might not make your payments on time, or you might default on a loan and not actually pay it off. Those people are going to be charged a higher interest rate to compensate for that greater risk of the credit card is going to lose money. So they're going to try and make more money on you, so if they do lose money, they can make up for it. Some advantages of having a regular credit card. You can make purchases without having the money, so you don't have to have all the money you need to make a purchase. They typically are required to rent a car, and there's some other things where having a credit card's handy for. They can be used as a short-term loan. So if you're like, hey, I'm getting paid next week and I have to buy this thing, like my tire blew out and I have to buy a new tire, you could put it on your credit card and then pay it off next week when you get paid. And as you use a credit card, if you use it and you make your payments on time, it can help build your credit history, which might make big purchases like a house or a car loan later on have a lower interest rate and may save you hundreds or tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. Disadvantages. Interest rates are really high. So if you leave money on that credit card month after month, you're going to be paying a lot in interest. You can easily spend more money than you have. So this is like this, the advantage of you can make purchases without having the money. This is the disadvantage of that. It's not always good to be able to make purchases without having the money. If you're looking to buy a new TV because you really want to watch some TV show bigger than what you have, and you put that on your credit card, that's going to be a really expensive choice. Getting behind on payments is a really fast way to damage your credit score. So while using it well can build your credit score, using it badly can hurt it. And then credit cards are really tempting. They encourage you to buy things you cannot afford. So you're like, oh, I have $5,000 credit limit. I'm just going to go spend $5,000. And that's a terrible approach to credit cards. It's going to get you into lots of debt really fast with lots of fees added on as well. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is what's called a secured credit card. This is a totally different kind of credit card. So this is for people who can't get a regular credit card because their credit score is low. Or they have some bad credit history where the credit card companies are saying no to them. In that case, you still want to build up your credit, so you might get a secured credit card. Here's how they work. It's really confusing. Normally with a credit card, you're borrowing money and you're paying it back. With a secured credit card, you actually send in a check for the entire credit limit. So let's say I'm applying for a secured credit card and I want a $1,000 credit limit. I actually send them, the company, $1,000. They take that money and they put it aside in an account with my name on it and says, okay, Mr. Haza has this account with $1,000 in it. We're going to give him a credit card that he can spend up to $1,000 on. Now the confusing thing is that once I get the card, it acts just like a credit card. I'm borrowing money from the company. I'm not taking money out of that account I sent in. So I just keep using like a regular credit card. I make my payments, I pay my interest, all those things. At the end, when I go to close the card, or when the company closes the card, that $1,000 I sent in gets applied to whatever remaining balance on the card there is, and then the remainder gets sent back to me. But that money that I sent them up in advance isn't used to make payments or anything like that. It just sits in the account until the account is closed, and then it pays off the card, and then the rest comes back to me as my deposit back. So people will use a secured credit card when their credit gets really low, like they make some mistakes and they get a low credit score. You can use a secured credit card to build your credit back up for a year or two, and then you close the account and then get that security deposit back. What that security deposit does, it tells the bank, hey, if they flake out and they don't make payments after like buying a bunch of stuff on their credit card, I know I have at least enough money to pay off the debt that they owe me, so they're willing to give you a credit card because they know that they can't lose money on it. All right, hopefully that's kind of clear. So secured credit card, you send in your credit limit up front, that's held, and then you can make purchases like a normal card. There we go. Advantages. It's a great way to rebuild your credit score. It can be used just like a regular credit card, so no, it won't say secured credit card in the front of it. It'll just say a credit card on it, so you don't have to worry about that. They also typically have smaller credit limits, so if you're afraid of getting over your head in a credit card, this is a great way to avoid it. And you can't overspend, but missing payments will still hit your credit score. Secured credit cards, they'll have like a cap, like they won't let you charge over typically. Disadvantages. They require you to have that money up front. So to get a secured credit card, you guys send in a lot of money. They have a smaller credit limit, which means that's also a disadvantage because now you can't make that emergency purchase you might need to buy 4 tires. You can only afford 2 tires because you have a smaller credit limit. And it has all the problems with a regular credit card. It's going to encourage you to overspend, and if you can't control that, you should avoid that completely. All right, so this is the store credit card one. So these are the ones that have like a Home Depot card or a Forever 21 card or a clothing store or any other kind of store. They'll have these little store credit cards. Often they'll have promotional discounts and savings. So they'll say, hey, if you use your store credit card, you get 10% off. Or you get a buy one, get one free. Or you get some reward points back to buy more stuff with. They also have typically have small credit limits between in the $100 to $1,000 range, And the stores make money on these credit cards in two ways. Stores love these credit cards. They push them. You'll see them ask you, are you going to put this purchase on your Home Depot card today or whatever card you're at? They make profit in two ways. One is that when you use the card, you're buying stuff from them. So if you have your Macy's card, you're buying Macy's stuff, so they're making a profit on the thing you buy. And then they also make money on the interest charged by the card. So if you don't pay that off in that first month, it's going to start having interest build up and they get money from that. So it's a brilliant thing for them. Some advantages of having a store credit card. Easy to apply for at checkout. So this is probably the easiest way to get it. They'll just ask you want to apply, and they'll, like 5 minutes later, you have a credit card. Typically come with special offers and deals. So if you work these well, you can actually get some good deals on them. They have smaller credit limits, so it's harder to really get into a lot of trouble with them, although you still can get several of them and get in trouble with them. Some disadvantages, they have smaller credit limits. You can't buy as much stuff you may need. Then they have all the problems with regular credit cards. So overspending, debt, high interest rates. Store credit cards usually have higher interest rates than a typical credit card. And you have to keep track of multiple bills and payments. So you might have a little store credit card here and here and here and here. You got to make sure you're getting all those payments paid every month, or it's going to hurt your credit report. Prepaid gift cards. Hey, while these cards look and act like credit cards, they aren't technically. You add money to the card, and then when you buy stuff, the money on the card decreases. When it hits zero, it's done. Since you're not borrowing money, there are no interest payments. That money is already on there. It was from someone else or from you. These are very profitable things for corporations. Corporations love these, like Starbucks. Their gift card program is genius for two reasons. One, it encourages purchase at the store. So if I get a $10 Starbucks card, Starbucks knows that $10 is getting spent at Starbucks. So that's positive. The bigger one even though, not the bigger one, but another big one is that a lot of people lose these cards or they leave some money on the card. And that money isn't Starbucks money, that's the money of the person who gave you the card. That money just sits in an account, and legally Starbucks can harvest the interest earned on that account. So right now Starbucks probably has tens of millions of dollars or millions of dollars of unused gift card money sitting in an account. And every month that's earning thousands of dollars of interest that Starbucks gets to keep. So it's genius in terms of it. You can, if people use the card, great, they bought stuff from your store. And if they don't use the card, great, you make profit off of that money that's just sitting in that account. All right. Some advantages can be used to make purchases in stores and online. Super nice. They can be replaced if lost or stolen. Usually there's a fee associated with that, but you also have to have the number on the back of the card. It's a little tricky to do. And they can't hurt your credit score. So this is a good way to have kids practice the use of credit cards without actually having a credit card where you could get in trouble. It can improve your credit score, so that there's no benefit there. And they're frequently lost and not completely used. Payroll cards are the last card that we're going to talk about. So this again isn't a credit card, but they look and act like a credit card. You can swipe and use them. What these are used for is usually by an employer for employees who don't have a checking account to deposit their checks into. So what they'll do is they'll load their check onto what looks like a little credit card. It acts more like, honestly, like a gift card in that the money is on the card and you use it up as it goes down. Every pay period, the account will be refreshed with your new purchases, and you can use that to buy more stuff. You typically can't go below zero on these, so you can't borrow money from it. You're always just using your money. So there's no interest, there's no benefit to your credit score, and there's no harm to your credit score for one of these cards. The trick of these is they typically include some monthly maintenance fee to maintain the account for you. So you might be paying $4 or $5 a month to have this card, whereas if you had a checking account, you could have a free checking account if you chose a bank with free checking accounts and not have to pay this and have a debit card instead. All right, that's payroll cards. This should say payroll cards. I apologize. It says prepaid, but it should say payroll cards here. Advantages of a payroll card. They can be used to make purchases just like anything, any other credit card or debit card. They can be replaced or if lost or stolen, they can't hurt your credit score. And it doesn't require a bank account or a credit score to get one of these. I would recommend not ever using payroll cards to get a checking account instead and have direct deposit put in and then be able to get a debit card. Disadvantages. Fees add up over time, so there's usually a maintenance fee that gets expensive over time. They can't help your credit score. It's harder to track your spending. Oftentimes there's no online banking or any other way to get at your money other than pulling it off. If you pull cash on an ATM machine, you're probably going to be paying fees for that money as well. Oftentimes payroll cards are used to pay people who don't feel like they can get a checking account. Maybe they don't have the documentation for immigration status, or they don't speak the language. They're oftentimes used for people like in those situations. All right, my friends, I think that's the end of it. That's the end of it. Good job surviving our discussion of credit cards today. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.